Welcome to another episode of the Force Diet Podcast. Wherever, whenever, and however you may be listening, we are honored that you've joined us. We are back after a holiday hiatus, and boy, have we got a fun episode in store for you today. On this episode, it's all about Bob. We're 4 episodes into a 7-episode run on the book of Boba Fett, and so we'll break down what we've seen so far, share some of our likes and dislikes, and more importantly, discuss what we hope to see over the final 3 installments. So sit back and relax. This is where the fun begins.
I'm tired in the Force.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power.
Why is the Force connecting us?
I am a Jedi.
Always 2 there are.
We're a dyad in the Force.
And welcome to episode 20 of the Force Diet Podcast. I am your host with the most, Obi Sean, joined as always by my colleague and co-host with the most, is Jedi John.
Boy.
How are we doing?
Not only is it confusing, but it's getting longer.
It is getting longer. The intro is just going to be
I'm good.
5 minutes at some point. So, how are we doing, bud?
I'm good. Glad to be back. It's been too long. It's been too long, and we have way too much to cover now.
Yes,
but it's excited.
We're going to jam, 4 weeks of content into about an hour, so it'll be good. But this is our first recording of the new year of 2022. So, Happy New Year to you, my friend.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you.
So we
it's been a happy one so far.
It has. It's been all right. Can't complain too much. I'm sure we could, but I don't know.
No complaints here.
Yeah.
No complaints. Made it through it. made it through it. That's all I wanted to do.
Yeah, for sure. So we got a lot to talk about. A lot of Bob. So we're not going to dilly-dally too much. We'll plug the socials real quick. Instagram, find us on Twitter at Force Diet Pod, and Facebook, Instagram at Force Diet Podcast, website forcedietpod.com. Check us out. If you're not following already, please consider doing so. We post pretty regularly on the Twitter, and I try and do some stuff through Facebook too. Yeah. So
Twitter's busy. It's a busy place.
Yep, for sure. And then once you're done listening to us, if you're into many of the other fandoms, DC, Marvel, comics, movies, games, so much more.
Anything not Star Wars related.
Pretty much. Be sure to check out our friends over at the Galactic Dads podcast. They can be found on pretty much any platform you get your podcast on. Social media networks would be at Galactic Dads for everything. So be sure to give them a listen. Check them out after you're done listening to us. So without any further ado, we're going to just dive right in. We are, as I said in the intro, 4 episodes in now, because episode 4 dropped today. Yeah. Into the 7-episode run. And we've had a lot happen.
Yeah, we've got some details, I don't know. I think we're just going to dive into episode 1 and just kind of like roll with it and give our dislikes as we go.
And likes. We're going to stay as positive as we can.
Oh, there are likes. Yeah, there are likes. Yeah.
We'll do some high level recaps from the earlier episodes since those were a few weeks ago now, and spend a bit more time on this week's episode and last week's episode. So
yeah.
So episode 1, Stranger in a Strange Land. You don't actually get the intro for I think 8 minutes or 9 minutes into the opening, or after the opening scene, which is the emergence from the Sarlacc.
Yeah. We have to know how Boba gets out.
Exactly. And little did we know that Parks and Rec had
got it right.
Old Patton Oswalt.
No, Oswalt got it right.
Just called it like shot for shot.
I think he was reading from a comic or a book. I think it was one of the old EU books.
No, apparently he said that he was told to make it up on the fly, and he just came up with something. They told him to come up with a filibuster.
Oh my gosh! It sounds like something straight out of an EU book.
So they said just come up with something random, and that was what he came up with.
That's hilarious.
And because I saw he did an interview about it back when they filmed it. So, but yeah, we get the emergence from the Sarlacc, and then promptly pillaged by the Jawas and then captured by the Tuskens. So those are your initial highlights, and then you
wakes up from the dream.
Oh yeah, in the back to tank, right?
Yeah.
And we're in present day. Lots of flashbacks as we know now. And you get the two sort of big, well, actually, I guess the one present day interaction, which is the attack by the assassin group, the Night Winds, outside of the I don't know, is it like a gaming parlor? Is it like a bar?
It's like a bar casino type. Yeah,
just like
the name of the place. I think that's what they called it.
The Pleasure Den. So, but you get some really cool foot soldier action. They looked like Shredder's foot soldiers out of TMNT. So very good, for the masking. Actually, sort of fight scene in action. We saw Gamorrean were wrestling, so it's nice to actually see the Gamorreans get some combat exposure. And then the last big sort of scene, it happens in the flashback again because, well, Boba the assassin gets his butt handed to him during the fight with the assassins.
Yeah, gotta go straight back to the back to tank.
Yep. And so we get the big sort of fight scene acceptance trope with the Sand Behemoth and the Tusken Raiders, and so
and we see Boba being accepted
exactly
into the tribe.
Exactly. He comes back with the young Tusken child and carrying the Behemoth's
head,
dome. So.
Yeah, pretty cool.
So overall, episode 1, thoughts, like real quick. What would you give it?
Probably like a 7. Seeing him get out of the Sarlacc pit, cool. Where he went afterwards, all right. And then you skip to the present day stuff, and you're like, yeah, he's doing his normal stuff. He's got to go around collecting money. Got the tribute stuff. Yeah, it wasn't anything just outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still a good episode. There was stuff like right away on first watch. I was just like, why? So like it just kind of hurt a little bit because I'm just like, why are we doing this like this? But it was the easy stuff too that I feel like the film, like the cinematography crew could have pointed out and said, hey, the Gamorrean guards just disappear out of Boba's back, like immediately outside the bar, like they're behind him, and then in the very next shot they are nowhere to be seen, and you're like, why aren't the Gamorrean guards, I don't know, standing right with him the whole time? And then the easy point out of he has a rocket pack, he has a jet pack, and he just didn't fly out of the.
Oh yeah, because they're surrounded on the ground. Yeah,
and
he could have just taken off.
He could have just flown up and then started shooting them.
Yeah, that's fair.
And those were just like the immediate like catches that I had. Like I was just like, why'd that happen like that? But overall, like, it was meant to show that he is vulnerable still, and potentially, I guess, injured, and wasn't really expecting to get surrounded in that moment necessarily.
Yeah, they got the drop on him, right? And
yeah.
And so I would agree. It for me when I've up until the Sand Behemoth fight, it was kind of a meh episode for me. So I would give it a similar thing, like a 7. For an opening, for the opening episode, it was kind of slow. The escape from the Sarlacc was great, although I couldn't really see. Obviously he's in the Sarlacc, right? So there's not a whole lot to see,
right?
But it was, I guess, underwhelming to some extent. I don't know what I expected. And what we don't know is how long was he in there for?
Yeah.
Is it right after he goes in and he's been in there for a few weeks? Has it been a few years? I think this most recent episode he talks about being there for years potentially, but In any case, yeah, 7 for me. I think looking at IMDb, they give it the rating is a 7.5. So
Right in there.
yeah, and so but transitioning now to episode 2, it kind of, if you see episode 1 and episode 2 as an arc in and of itself, episode 1 makes a lot more sense, I think. So, just jumping real quick into episode 2, the highlights. So we get our first one of the sort of sniff maybe there's a Rancor, because they do capture one of the Nightwind assassins at the end of episode 1. Turns out the pit is empty, because we got that scene from the trailer where they slide forward and then look down. You're like, oh, Rancor, and yeah, there was, I think it was a rat or something that ran out the back. So, but they they get the info they need out of the assassin. They get him to talk
Pretty quick too.
Oh, yeah.
What a master assassin! Doesn't even wait for the Rancor to show itself before he just folds.
right. Yeah, he's just like, oh, the door is opening. Yeah, it was the mayor. So so we get which is cool because I think the last time we see an Ithorian in live action is I think it's in A New Hope, in the
bar,
cantina.
In the cantina, yeah.
So you don't really get a whole lot of Ithorian live action stuff. So it's cool to see some of the new characters that they're throwing in, some of the races that, again, you haven't seen in live action. But basically tells them that it wasn't him, right? Because then they snipe the assassin out, and Boba quickly learns that it's the twins. It's relatives of the Hutt, Jabba, that have come to claim.
They want what's theirs.
Correct. Their sort of familial claim.
I just love it. I don't care what's on that tablet.
Well, and I love that, people are like, where's your, what's the name for the sort of the parade?
The litter. Is it litter?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically being carried around by his, slaves for all intents and purposes. It's like, yeah, we didn't know you were coming. We didn't see your entourage. And he's like, yeah, I don't do that. I can walk. I can walk myself. And then you get the twins get carried in, bong bong drums, and we get our first view of who has quickly become my favorite character. I'm gonna probably butcher this. Black Krrsantan, right?
Yeah, he is
amazing.
Dude,
he's so cool.
He's one bad Wookiee.
I mean, I love Chewbacca, but
yes.
he's like he's the primal Wookiee.
Yeah.
Like, and many fans of Star Wars will have recognized him from he's from the Africomics, and I think he's in one of the as well, because there's a scar he actually has that Obi-Wan gave him. So we get kind of our first introduction into the Hutts are still here, even though it's not Jabba, and we get Black Krrsantan. So.
Then we go back to the flashbacks again.
Yep.
And this is a long flashback scene.
It's most of the episode, I think.
And honestly, this train scene, it was good. I really enjoyed the train scene. It was entertaining. It was fun. They had to learn. Was very impressed with the entire train. I mean, everything looked good. The speeder bikes looked good. The one Tusken jumping off while crashing it into to help. I think it was some stuff we haven't seen in the Star Wars universe.
Well, and the fight was believable. Excuse me, it was believable. It didn't go flawlessly. There was mistakes, made at different points, and so and
a barbecue on the ride.
Right.
A couple of them, I think.
And you get to see the Tusken warrior, get to just annihilate some pikes, which again we learn after they're able to stop it that it's indeed the pikes, or it's run by the pikes. It's their speeder train, which is carrying a bunch of spice.
A lot of spice.
A bunch of spice.
Yeah. I do love how they're just playing dumb.
What is spice? It just dumps that
right there. Do you see it?
And what I actually didn't know, which is obviously revealed at the end of the episode, is that they're wearing masks. Like they're like fish people underneath. I did not know that.
I mean, it's the first time we've seen them on live action. So.
And I think it's the first time we've seen them without the helmet on. Even going back to like the Clone Wars, I think they're always wearing the headpieces of some sort. So, or even in Solo, I mean, because we get the Pikes in Solo.
They're all wearing
their masks. Yeah. So, but the episode 2, you know, when you get that sort of the rite of passage in the Tusken culture with him basically getting the little gecko up his nose.
That was a little much. It made me a little like, I'm like, oh, there.
That looked painful. Like it felt, you could feel it. Like as a viewer, you could almost feel it. But trudging through the desert to find the random tree, which he gets his gaffy stick wood from, and making his gaffy stick. I mean, it's like that was cool. I really enjoyed that portion of the episode. So, but yeah, I mean, the episode basically, in so many words, hey, you know, the Tuskens rule this area. You're going to pay for the Pikes passage, will pay for passage. So, episode 2, what would you give it for a rating?
I mean, I really enjoyed it. So not much wrong in it for me. I really enjoyed seeing him becoming one of the members of the tribe for the Tuskens and being accepted as equal with them. And I mean, that kind of stuff, those plots are always fascinating to me, because you're talking about some a group of people that, in this case, like he could barely communicate with. I mean, he was doing his best, obviously, and he got his point across. But he still doesn't know their language.
Bantha.
Yeah.
Like a bantha. That GIF has been it's enjoyable.
Yeah, it's like the easy stuff, like when they're training on the speeder bike, like, and he goes backwards, like you're like, yep, okay. I mean, it's enjoyable, and it's supposed to be made fun for family. Like, I mean, kids are watching this and they're giggling at that stuff, even if some of the adults are just making fun of it. The kids are laughing at it, so that's the whole point. So
yeah, and that's a good point, because like, so for me, I would give it a high score as well. I would give it probably an 8.5 for me. Yeah, I'd probably give it an 8.5. So what's IMDb? You know, if you watch episode 1 and 2 as an arc, it makes episode 1 make a lot more sense. Why it's a bit slower and giving you the full backstory kind of into Tusken culture, because we've never seen that. We've never been exposed to that.
I mean, the most we got was in Mando, and it was
which makes me wonder how you know, kind of going back to that, where Mando's exposure and experience to Tusken culture kind of comes from, you know, because he got along with them so sort of effortlessly.
Yeah.
Now, you know, episode 2, doing sort of the tribal rite of passage, like you said, is, for me, it was I was sitting there kind of just enthralled. Like, I didn't know how the episode was going to go. I didn't know what. It was just fun. It was just a fun watch, and initially, let's go on the ride. And so, it was. And I think I saw the sort of the forge, if you want to call it a forge, where he makes his stick, or his gaffy stick, is based on, I think, a Macquarie.
I don't doubt
painting
it,
rendering, or excuse me,
of the unused
of the Tuskens. And so it's just nice to get. It was nice, excuse me, to get backstory on a people, or on a group of people who you've only ever seen them as.
No, but yeah,
story. Right, you're right, exactly. But you get a bit more of that backstory. So, yeah, I really enjoyed episode 2. So, going into episode 3,
the streets of Mos Espa.
Oh yeah, episode 2 was the tribes of Tatooine. But yeah, episode 3, the streets of at the beginning. Espa.
Oh gosh,
where shall we start? Well, I guess we'll start at the beginning with Milton.
Oh my goodness.
You stole my water.
Stole my water.
So you get the vassal visiting to complain about the
cares about you,
and nobody likes you. Which I don't know what kind of favor he was trying to curry.
No respect.
Yes, little Rodney Dangerfield there, but But it's just funny. As soon as he walked out, I go, "Oh my gosh, it's Milton from Office Space," and so it kind of made watching that scene hard to take serious. But basically, he's complaining that these ruffians, these hooligans,
This gang.
the Mod Squad, I'm going to call them the Mod Squad, is stealing his stuff, and the streets aren't safe, and so we, that it kind of sets up obviously for what happens later in the episode, but you get there's a flashback before that. Oh no. He goes and gets. That's right, because he needs them for later. But anyways, so yeah, he goes and meets this group of kids.
Yeah, I mean, really, they're teenagers.
Yeah,
Like they're just like
adolescents,
straight up teens.
and
From Back to the Future, they got inserted in the Star Wars universe.
but they have all these cool little modifications to them. The one guy's got an eye implant. The girl's got some sort of weird knife thing.
Yeah, I mean, they've all got different droid modifications
Exactly.
on their bodies, which is the first time. Well, not the first time we've seen droid pieces on humans in the Star Wars universe, but it is the first time we've seen them with fully metal, like showing. Like usually it's covered up. Like Luke's hand they made it look like a real hand.
It was hidden. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you get this sort of exposition about how water's too expensive. There's no work.
Yeah. That dude's charging too much.
Exactly. And so he ends up recruiting them to work for him, Boba that is, to which Milton doesn't take too kindly to it.
He does not like it.
And so
He's like, "What are you doing?"
yeah, and
Although Boba's just like, "How much do they owe you?" And then
it was 1,300 credits. It was 1,300 credits for water.
1,300 credits again. I heard you.
Yeah.
The first time.
Yeah, here's 500. I've altered the terms of the deal. Pray don't alter it further.
Right. Lower your prices.
So it's like
Slash them.
I fixed the glitch.
Yeah.
We fixed the glitch. So you get Boba recruiting this group of young people to work for him.
Yeah.
And so then we get the flashback back into the back to tank flashback of Boba interacting with the Pikes, because this is after they've taken down the train, to say, you got to pay for passage or protection, excuse me. Yeah. And so, well, it turns out there's another group, the what are they called? The Kenton Striders.
Yeah, I think.
And it's the Nikto gang, but which are the guys on the speeder bikes that we see in it was episode 2.
Episode 2 when he went to go get the speeder bikes for the train heist.
Exactly, when he went to Anchorhead and put his gaffy stick to good use.
Yeah.
Anyways, so he makes his way back to Tusken Camp and finds out that it's been completely destroyed and it was
just slaughter.
It just wiped out.
Yeah. Didn't see very many riders on.
But the only one you don't see, or they don't let you see, or they don't make obvious, is the Tusken Warrior.
The favorite one.
Right. Yeah, right. So presumably, I guess we can kind of assume maybe that
it's potential.
Boba does the stuff, and as they're like panning out, or as they're getting ready to end, he's awoken abruptly by Krrsantan, and
yeah,
it was
a little scary.
I was scared, not like but it was a good jump scare for sure.
Yeah, and then you just get to see Krrsantan just do what he does best, which is, I mean, he was ready to break every bone in Boba's body.
That fight scene was excellent. It was great. It made me wonder how he even got in. First of all,
that was my first question: is how did he get in through Jabba's palace? Boba's palace now, obviously,
right?
But, how does he get in? Which is funny because everybody still calls it Jabba's palace.
Mm-hmm. Even the droids, he's like, he goes all Voldemort on him. He's like, the guy we won't name. He's like, you can. But it was on so long before anybody realizes that he's getting the crap beat out of him. But then the mods run in. They come in to try and fight and help him. And then
what was a line out of 300 when they say they talk about like the low end fighters? They're just brutes. They just go hack and slash and make a a terrible mess of things. That's the literal, like, that's what I felt like they were doing. I mean, not super skilled fighters, but they were just trying to hack away.
For Boba to get his gaffy stick and
I
put
guess
it right.
Fennec was just sleeping.
Exactly, because then they end up running out into the main area by the Rancor pit.
Right.
And then that's when she comes around the corner and she's like, oh, hey, there's a fight going on. And that was all very strange, like how that actually played out. But you end up with Krrsantan getting caught in the Rancor pit.
Yeah.
And so then it fast forwards to the twins coming to pay tribute, and because they sent BK to take care of Boba, and they're like, yeah, we probably shouldn't have done that.
It's just business.
Yeah.
No hard feelings.
Right. And so then as tribute or as payment, they give him Danny Trejo.
Just Danny Trejo.
just Danny Trejo.
He finally got to go to space.
He did. But no, he comes along with a Rancor, which is awesome. I mean, it's
The Rancor is pretty sweet. It makes me very disappointed we didn't get the Black Series HasLab passed. It makes it hurt a little more because by the end of this, we're gonna see Boba riding a Rancor, and I would love to make that happen in my room here, but now I don't know what I'm gonna do for a Rancor. So
you just have to get the Lego version and get a little Boba Fett minifigure to put on top.
Yeah,
but that even with the Rancor, and it should be said that Boba releases BK.
Oh yeah, he just says you can go do whatever you want.
Yeah, take off. He's like stop working for people who
stop working for stupid losers
like Scruggs or something like that.
Like basically just stop working for people that just are paying you to do their bidding. Like,
right.
Do something for yourself.
Do something do something for yourself. But I was surprised at how much sort of Rancor sort of face to face we got, with the whole training.
It was really, really cool to get them like face to face. Like this is the closest you're getting to a Rancor.
Mm-hmm. And that model, I mean, the physical prop, looked awesome, looked amazing. Point most likely.
I just love how he treats everything like a pet. Like it's like, oh, is that the spot right there? Yeah, yeah.
He just basically whittles it down to him being like a dog or something like that.
Yep.
Which it's fun, but the whole riding the Rancor thing made me think back to the I think it's issue 6 of the High Republic, and you've got Avar riding a Rancor on the front cover, and it's like, yep, this is going to be cool when this happens. When he ends up riding a Rancor into battle against the Pikes, skipping ahead. It's gonna be
epic.
It's gonna be cool.
And then we got the chase scene in that episode.
Oh
also.
yeah. I skipped over that part.
Yeah, conveniently.
I skipped over Vespa-gate.
Boy, a lot of people were angry about this.
They were very upset.
But if you just take it at face value for what it's supposed to be, it's a bunch of rebellious kids that are like, I understand we live on a sand planet. It doesn't mean I can't have bright things that go against the grain. So all you boomers.
Yeah, they all slimy. From the first instance that you meet him in episode 1, you're like, I don't like you.
I wish they would have killed him in that.
I thought he was going to fall in the Rancor pit.
Yeah.
But so you get the whole chase scene through the town or through Mos Espa, and the special effects, the CG isn't great. But I did like the end when he crashes into the fruit stand, and it's the fruit from Rebel. It's those Malone.
Oh from.
I actually looked it up earlier today, but they're the fruits from Rebels that you couldn't get on Lothal that they were smuggling everywhere and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of a fun little Easter egg. Like, oh, he smashed into an entire cart of these fruits. So yeah, I mean,
Well, I mean, for what it was. I mean, it's supposed to be. I mean,
it was different.
Yeah,
and people don't like different. So
yeah, we'll get into that in a second.
Yeah. So episode 3, what would you give it?
Honestly, outside of it was kind of like maybe a 6 or 7. Like for me, Outside of the Rancor was cool too. I mean, getting the Rancor was pretty awesome actually. But like, as far as the scenes go, like the other stuff in the episode just didn't thrill me. Other than seeing the Rancor show back up, Rancor again, just the way they were playing, and then yeah, I mean the Mod Squad, cool. They're gonna serve a purpose, and yeah, I mean that's it for me. I just wasn't overly impressed.
6.5 to 7. So, yeah, I mean, I can't say that it was better than episode 1. So I guess, yeah, I'll have to give it like a 6.5 because I think I gave episode 1 like a 7.5. So, yeah, for pretty much the same reasons you just said. You know, as I mentioned earlier, BK is probably my new favorite character, just because of how sort of primal he is as a Wookiee, you know. But the you know, as you said, the Rancor's cool. Seeing the training or the sort of the first look of the Rancor, seeing its owner sort of thing, was cool because again, it's something that we haven't seen before. I guess the same could be said about the multicolored, you know, the brightly colored Vespa scooters.
Now we do know why the Rancor keeper was bawling his eyes out so bad.
Oh yeah,
They're very connected to their owners, so
for sure.
it's kind of crazy.
So yeah, let's see. So what does IMDb give it? IMDb gives it a 6.5.
We are right on today.
So yeah, I mean, again, talking about, you know, just to touch on looking at it, kind of stepping back from the, hey, you know, they've got brightly colored scooters.
Oh yeah.
Like, if you actually consider what mod counterculture was like in the 60s, and maybe that's exactly what they were going for, or maybe just this happenstance that they're all mods, they're all modified humans, so they're mods who happen to ride around on scooters that go against the social norms, right? And so maybe it's just I've seen some people claim that, or try and explain it as George Lucas was always big into, you know, old cars, you know, with like American Graffiti and like, so that was like a nod to them because it had a bunch of like 50s and 60s kind of car mods to the bikes. I've seen that explanation for it. I mean, I think you could just simply say that it's a Star Wars version, and I use air quotes there, of mod counterculture from the 60s, you know.
Absolutely.
Using the exact same mode of transport, dressing differently and everything like that.
And in every other movie or show that we've ever had on Tatooine, like we've seen different parts of this town, of this city. So like it's not there are different things out there.
Like Mos Espa's not Mos Eisley, right?
Yeah.
They're different cities.
Right.
And also, okay, if we're going to have a gangster show or a crime lord show or whatever, you got to have a biker gang. Like there's got to be a biker gang in some sort of crime show.
Yeah,
like,
you could argue that was with the speeders.
Yeah, but like they're actually like they're dressed kind of like a biker gang. Well,
right.
Some of them were. The girl was. Some of the other guys were flashy dressed. Again, going back to the mod counterculture where they were going against all the social norms. So I looked at it more as a fun sort of, you know, just goofy. You know, I understand they're a purist, you know, if you want to call someone a Star Wars purist, but
I mean, I'd still go against that and just say that, I mean, think about like on the inner planets, on places like Coruscant. Like, you don't think there's stuff like that on Coruscant?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, where do you think some of them get up there? And all it takes is one person coming from Coruscant to the Outer Rim to say, why don't we have very much?
Yeah.
So, and there's lots of money there, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There's money.
Exactly. So I mean, I honestly, you know, I watched the episode today because I was a little behind, and I don't know what all the hubbub is.
There's always fuss. Come on
Doesn't
now.
make
All
any
right.
sense to me. All right, so that brings us to episode 4, the episode from today, The Gathering Storm. And out of the gate, I mean, it's probably the best episode so far.
I would agree.
You know, it was basically mother, how Boba met Fennec. It's like How I Met Your Mother, sort of thing.
Yeah, after like taking the day off, well, after looking at a ship and saying, "Not today, can't do that." It hooks us up with Mando, season 1, when he sent a flare up to blind Fennec in the desert. So Boba, as any good person would do, there's a bright light, maybe I should head towards it.
Like a moth, like a moth to the flame.
So just from a different angle, of him finding Fennec on the ground, shot in the gut. And then, I mean, it's kind of cool where he takes her to it's almost like a tattoo parlor type.
He goes
place.
to it's a mod shop.
It's a mod shop, and so it's just, but it's got that tattoo, like that grungy.
It definitely had the
tattoo,
yes,
like
for sure.
type.
It had tattoo parlor written, all over it.
And he's like, only by appointment. I think there's plenty of people out there with tattoos. I'll tell you, appointment or not, if you've got enough money, you can get your work done. So, pretty cool. And obviously they didn't want to cover it up, like it was, because it's, to them it's gorgeous, like machinery. So
it had that steampunk like vibe to it too. I mean, that exposed metal and everything like that, and just they could have easily just been like a couple sparks, gave a bit. So so she's fixed up. She's given her 5G implant, and so she wakes up out of her stupor next to Boba in a fire and is like, what's happening?
Yeah, life debt.
Right. Well, he goes,
Misa save.
Misa, oh my gosh. Used to have a life debt.
To him?
But he tells her that he's Boba, and she's like, yeah, no, he's dead. And he's like, well, I should be. I was. So you get that introduction, and she's like, all right, well, I'm clearly more valuable alive, huh? And he's like, yep. What do you need? I'm going to go steal my fire spray gunship back from Jabba the Hutt. Well, from Bib Fortuna. And so it's the
classic spy entry. We went through the gates underneath the tunnel, like through the sewer system, basically.
Yeah. Well, and you get kind of the lead up to the break-in, right? You're doing scouting and stuff like that.
Yeah, probe
and you get the little camera probe, which is like a super miniaturized version of the one that Maul sent after to kind of spy. It kind of like
all kinds of different probes in the Star Wars universe,
for sure. And so you get like this full layout of Jabba's palace, which was actually it was really cool. It looked very video game.
And it's kind of crazy how huge it was, because like when you just see it from Episode 6, it doesn't look that enormous, obviously. And then even when you saw it since then, it hasn't looked that enormous. But yeah, there's a lot of space in there.
Yeah, and so they managed to sneak their way in, and we get this kitchen scene. And it's funny, first of all, because one of the droids is the same one, or it looked exactly the same as the droid who was running Jabba's.
Oh, it's the same one.
It looked like the exact same droid, who was putting the gonk.
He was assigning the other droids to the
different roles.
Different roles, yeah.
Yep. And so, So that was kind of a cool little nod first, and then he gets knocked out, and then you get the General Grievous version of the Swedish Chef is what I called him on Twitter today, and the guy's making a salad, and then all of a sudden he's got 6 arms and he's wheeling the knives, and you're like, okay, this is, and it was cool because it looked like Boba almost was having that kind of Obi-Wan feel to him, and from Revenge of the Sith. And then all of a sudden, Fennec just comes up and
takes care of it,
lops his head off. And
then they have a fun chase scene with the little droid, the
rat catching droid, which that kind of had like a Ratatouille feel to it,
Like, where are you? What are you doing?
Like running through like the, having gone on the Remy's Ratatouille adventure, and you go into the burners and stuff like that. When I saw him go over the fire. It's like, oh, it's like I'm on the ride again. But yeah, then they come up. They get past that. They come up on the ship, and there's a fight that breaks out naturally. Fennec takes care of like everyone naturally.
Yeah, she's pretty handy.
Yeah. It was funny watching Boba try and pilot that thing out of there. Because he was. I saw a funny meme on Twitter today. It was that scene from Austin Powers where he got the car stuck
on both sides.
And he's on both sides. It was like trying to watch the slave one like pivot, just taking out the walls. It was it was entertaining, and so I mean they managed to steal the ship back, which again we knew because we've seen Mando season 2. I feel like Book of Boba should have definitely come out before Mando season 2, so at least there was some sort of intrigue, like what's this going to look like and that sort of stuff, because some of the surprises,
I mean, so far it still would have been a surprise to see Boba and when they show up in that episode for Mando. It still would have been a surprise when they showed up,
right? But like that's the thing, like any sort of peril that they've perilous anymore because of season 2. So that's the only kind of bummer thing. But nevertheless, we get the next scene with the fire sprite, the slave one, just annihilating that biker gang.
Yeah, they had no shot.
He's like, I've got some unfinished business.
Yeah, they had no shot.
I mean, that was just
so
awesome.
So sorry for them. Just one by one, they just started dropping, and it was ruthless. I mean, but obviously it was revenge. So I mean, he was after blood, and he showed zero mercy to them. And then, the Rancor.
No, the Sarlacc.
Oh yeah, sorry, the Rancor. The Sarlacc.
They fly out to the Pit of Carcoon, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna look for my armor."
Yeah.
Because he managed to forget that he crawled out with it on him.
Well, he was a little.
I mean, he was out of it. He was out of it. I can forgive him for that. But yeah, mouth of the
a little shock. I mean, they tried to do the shock.
I knew.
Again,
Yeah,
that
jump scare did not get me.
But honestly, how they dealt with it, fantastic.
You knew. I almost wondered why they didn't. Oh, obviously you couldn't reach the button, but the Sonic.
The sand, you just see
awesome.
How far it goes. And they get away.
Yeah, and they take off, and the arms just kind of like hanging there, and Boba just side eyes her and goes, "Don't touch my buttons."
Yeah. Oh yeah, next time
don't touch my buttons. And it was just like that again, kind of, buddy humor, car humor from don't mess with my radio sort of thing, and so, but yeah, so I mean, you get to see the slave one back in action again, and it's just cool to see. And so then we're back to real time. We pop back to real time, and we get the reveal that Boba's fully healed now.
Yeah.
Like all of it has kind of come full circle, or at least. We're likely not going to get too many more flashbacks,
right?
Because we're not going to need to visit the back.
We don't have the device. All the time. Yeah, we don't have the device.
And so then we get to go see BK again.
Yeah, he's just chilling,
hanging out in the pleasure den is what we call it, right?
Man, they do not like Trandoshans.
No.
Man, and they're just sitting there gambling, having a good time, and
he's just getting angrier and angrier and angrier, and to the point where he just snaps and
starts beats
them senseless, and ends up holding up one, and I forget her name, but it's Jennifer Beals' character. You've won all these. A proud fighter, you won all these trophies, and
I mean, she was
like sweet talking him.
She's really sweet talking him, and honestly, I think that was more for like because at first we know how it went, obviously, but like the entire time I'm like, this is aimed directly at all the fans that are like, where are the limbs? Like, they should be tearing off some limbs right now, and they're not doing it because it's Disney and they're being too friendly and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, this message is for them. Like, yes, once it was acceptable, but now we're not doing that anymore, kind of thing. And then, because I thought for sure, I'm like, she is going to convince him to put this dude down and walk away from the situation.
Well, she was gonna offer to wipe his tab completely clean. That was the
right. That was her
bargaining chip.
Yeah.
And he doesn't care what his.
At first, I thought he was going to take it though,
because he did look at her, briefly, like maybe you're right, and then no,
arm gone,
ripped his arm right off,
and I started celebrating. I'm like, yes, it's still acceptable.
And then he tips the waitress. And walks out.
Yeah,
it was very Han Solo like sorry for the mess, and just walks straight out. And she rolls her eyes at him, and he's just like, "See ya." So I mean, again, BK, he's and don't feel bad for the Trandoshan. His arm will grow back because their limbs grow back. But that scene was just Wookiees pull their arms out of their sockets.
I love it. I loved it. I loved that scene. And then obviously Boba follows him out of the bar and says, "You look like you need a job. Let's
work for me."
Yeah,
because
we found out that episode that credits are not an issue for Boba. He has plenty.
Oh yeah,
of
tons
credits.
of money.
Yeah.
And so the last scene, or the last big scene, is the bringing of the families together. So you get the Trandoshans, the Aqualish. And the Klatooinians, and each one it's explained in episode 3 that each one controls a certain part of Mos Espa, and so trying to basically bring them together to not, the enemy of my enemy is my friend sort of thing, right? So we may not get along, you may not like me, so like, why don't I kill you?
But we definitely don't want to get the Pikes,
right? We don't want the Pikes taking over everything, and so they're like, well, the beef's with you. We make money from the spice trade. And so he's like, all right, how about this? And so he basically takes on all the defense responsibility. Just his one thing was, don't turn against me, right? Don't join
Stay
the Pikes.
Neutral,
don't join the Pikes. And to which they all agree. And so
it's just really funny, like because at first they were threatening him.
Oh yeah,
and then they got clamped down on real fast because Rancor just grabbed the grate.
That's right. Yeah, you get the Rancor claw. Just the jump scare. That one I did not see coming.
No, it was so good though,
because they don't show you where the scene is sort of being filmed. Like you don't know that you're in the throne room, although maybe you should expect that. But because earlier,
they don't know that they have the Rancor yet.
Correct, and because earlier, they're having in episode 3, they're having that feast in the dining hall, right? So it's like maybe they're having it there. No, they're having it right over the Rancor trap, and you get that jump scare with the Rancor claw coming through, and they're just like, oh, okay, and it's become a lot more serious really quick, and so they all agree to stay neutral, right? And then they take off on their way, and so it's at that point on the balcony that you get the you can always buy muscle if you know where to find it, sort of thing. And
you got money buys muscle, and then you get the
and you get the Mando theme, and you're like, oh yes, and then the episode ends, and so ranking, what would you give it?
I mean, this is like a solid 9 for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had fun this episode. It was entertaining. Obviously, seeing his ship back in action. I mean, going for revenge, the true Star Wars way. I got to see a limb get ripped off by a Wookiee, so that's a good time. And it looks like, Boba's really building his team. Mm-hmm. He has some just badass.
He's got some solid pieces to his puzzle. I mean, his squad is like his Suicide Squad. They've got some skills between them.
Like Krrsantan and Fennec, like between just the brute strength and then the smarts and sharpshooting, and then you still have Boba. Like it's still Boba with armor.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's gonna.
His armor is Beskar,
Yeah.
which I think a lot of people assumed, but it's like sort of a confirmed that it is made of Beskar, which is cool. Yeah, I agree. 9. I would even go so far as to give it like a 9.5, but
This is, so far, is my favorite episode. I mean, I've had favorite scenes in other episodes, but for the whole episode, this is my favorite one. And I think it's going to get a lot of kickback because I think people are fussing about all the flashback scenes. Like they think there's too many of them, and that there's too much exposition on stuff that we kind of could put the pieces together on how they got there. But for all those people saying that, I'll say one thing: Palpatine. Like, I'll just say that. Everybody complains that they didn't understand how he came back. Well, guess what? They're explaining exactly, shot for shot, how Boba came back to being Boba. And if you want to complain about that, that's fine. But you were just complaining a couple years ago about how you didn't understand how somebody came back. Now, granted, Palpatine's a whole nother animal on that front. But if you're going to complain about it, and then they were trying to do what you were complaining about last time, you can't complain about it because they're giving you what you wanted, air quotes on the wanted.
right.
So,
Yeah, the early ratings on IMDb have it at a 7.9
yeah.
out of 10. And just kind of scrolling through some of these, there's a 5 out of 10 titled "We Get It," which is it says, "I'm genuinely beginning to wonder what the creators of Book of Boba hope to accomplish with the Disney Plus series, considering it needlessly continues to spoon feed us information we already knew."
Yep. What do you know? What do you know?
7 out of 10. Best episode so far, but still a pointless show. 4 out of 10. 95% filler. No forward movement in the story at all, other than minor bits. Then you got a 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 6 out of 10. It was slave_1, and it will forever be slave_1. Because I guess this person doesn't realize that the fire spray gunship is the type of ship. Because if he had told her,
difficult.
if he had said, "Hey, I'm going to go get my slave 1 back," she's going to go, "What
slave?
is that?" I'm going to go back and get my fire spray gunship. Oh, I know what that is.
Yeah.
That's a spaceship. So,
That's a spaceship.
that's a spaceship. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, 5 out of 10 feels like a low budget 70s Saturday afternoon sci-fi, cheesy and corny. So yeah, I mean, you're getting there are people who are going to never be satisfied because people have this vision of Boba in their head, and this show is kind of like it's taking that sort of mysticism, like what have we liked about the first 4 episodes, talk about it kind of as a whole, is, there's a lot more exposition. He's shown to be vulnerable. He's shown to be
compassionate.
He's not
Showing
just
empathy.
the hard,
Yeah.
The hardened, like, I guess,
He was known as a ruthless bounty hunter.
Yeah.
And that's when he was taking jobs from people that didn't care about him, just cared about the result.
Right. And that was young. That was a young
He did
version of Boba, right? Like,
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
also
technically he's older.
and he did just go through a situation where he should have died. Mm-hmm. So that changes a person.
That's true. And you're right. And so I'm going to toss it to you on this regard, because Boba is like your favorite character from Star Wars. So as a Boba fan, as a Boba purist, do you, like, I'm curious to know your thoughts on how they're like exploring the character and basically taking all the armor off, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah. I like the story we're getting for him. I mean, the dude almost died, like, and he should by all rights be dead, and he knows it. So this is his second chance at life, which is I think why he is going down the path that he's going. And because he knows he's smart. He's like, I'm smarter than all these gangsters that think they know what they're doing, but they are running it just through fear. and that's not how you can run long term. So in the show, like I mentioned from the episode 1, like we just got done talking about, I just literally said how smart he was and how he's smarter than all his gangsters, and he's got a jetpack on, and he can't figure out how to beat a group of assassins with a jetpack, and they are grounded. So it is what it is, and part of it is because they needed it to work like that so they could film the rest of the scene.
Right.
Same with the Gamorrean guards not being right behind him. They needed them to be further away so they could come in after there was a problem. But yeah, it was, as far as Boba goes, I'm okay with what's happening with him. We're just happy to get more of him. We want him to come back to full combat and show us what he's got again. Like pretty much what we got in his premiere on Mando yet. So I'm hoping to get it in the war to come.
Yeah. And, as he's been trying to heal himself over the first 4 episodes too. So there's going to be some level of diminished ability, because of it. That's probably why, they were able to get the jump on him, and, he was beaten as bad as he was in episode 1. Going back to your jetpack, I think it's funny because in episode 3, he learned how to use it and and lands right in front of the major domo. But so it's he remembered how to use it at that point. But as someone, for me, like from my perspective, as someone who just enjoys Star Wars and just the idea of Star Wars, I don't mind more backstory, or I don't mind more character building. Some of it's going to be good, some of it's going to be probably not so good, and you kind of got to weed through that. But I'm perfectly fine giving him more with our Bad Batch discussions and the introduction of the Pikes and the crime syndicates and stuff like that. This is building towards a larger. I could definitely see there being a second season of Book of Boba, based on kind of what they're laying the groundwork for. They're laying a Godfather type crime family feel to it. And yes, you Don Corleone was, I'm sure, ruthless. He was. You've seen the movies, right? But there's also a level of intelligence and smarts and wits and stuff. And so to just be blindly, gung-ho about it, to not give him that level of intelligence, I think would be doing the character a disservice. And I have to say that Tamora Morrison, we got the little bit of him right. And
doing well. Yeah.
Comment talking about a corny sci-fi thing. I like the humor. Maybe you need to dial it back in certain points, or allow there to be more serious, like, tone to something. But it doesn't have to be serious.
It's
all the time.
Earlier,
like you said, it's a kid. It's a family
show. So
and it's the first introduction, like true introduction to Boba.
Right.
You get him a handful of times in episode 5 and 6, and that's really it. So like anybody coming in, new viewers, kids, like you said, Disney Plus is, pulling in, or not pulling in, but they have a lot of young viewers, and, you got to have that cross age group sort of appeal.
Yeah. Somebody in my neighborhood, just the other day posted on Facebook, and I was surprised because I didn't realize that even he was like into Star Wars and stuff, but my 5-year-old daughter will only watch Book of Boba Fett. It's the only thing on TV right now she wants to watch. And there's a reason for that. Like, it's fun for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the stuff that they're seeing in it is fun for them. Mm. So, now, granted, would I love this show to be
darker,
rated R and gritty,
mm-hmm.
and like on Disney Plus After Dark or something like that? Yeah, absolutely. Because I think they could make a really gritty show and satisfy that side of the fan base also, that's complaining that it's too light and too much not what they want out of Boba.
Well, and I think that's what the last few episodes allow for, because in the first 4 episodes, there's not, you'd be just inserting violence and grit for the sake of it. Like there was nothing needed in how they're telling the story to where that kind of action would be warranted. Aside from when he just completely annihilates the biker gang.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, pretty, like we said, it was merciless and
I mean, it was Anakin.
yeah, very much. It was almost it was in the reverse.
Had no chance.
Exactly.
Like, literally, your enemy had zero chance.
Yep.
And you just
didn't know it was coming,
it.
and you just blasted him into oblivion. And so, pivoting now to what we see coming in the next, over the next 3 episodes. I think. Well,
I have one big hope.
All right, go ahead. Go first.
I hope we see Kira. I hope she shows up in the finale for the season and becomes a part of the universe again.
On the side of the Pikes, or
it probably comes in because there's a squabble and she needs it to calm down for Crimson Dawn and other syndicates.
Okay.
Because as the Hutt said, war is not good for business.
Right.
So anytime there's war involved, it means somebody's pockets are getting hurt, and that's just not good. So I'd love to see Kira come back into the fold in the Star Wars universe
and just crack the whip and be like, "This ends now."
Yeah, we're not gonna play this game anymore.
We're gonna get Mando. The audio when she first said that, you can pay for muscle if you know where to find it. I almost because I didn't listen all the way to the end. Like I was like, okay, it's done, and I didn't actually. I stopped watching at that point. I completely missed it the first time. I was thinking the Bad Batch, because I realized it's too far down.
A little old.
It's too far down because again, they're just basically hired muscle.
Yeah.
It made me think of Wrecker and just imagine that. But then you'd have tomorrow more technically,
see.
it'd be,
yeah.
but yeah. So I think we're gonna get Din back.
I just don't know who else he's gonna bring. Like, I mean, granted, they have.
He could.
You can go to the
You
guild.
can go to Mandalore.
Well, yes.
Like
you could.
I mean, he hasn't left Tatooine yet.
But Boba doesn't believe Mandalore's a thing. Like he's
well,
like,
it has
no,
to because Beskar came from Mandalore.
No. But in the show, like when Bo-Katan is talking about Mandalore.
Oh, yeah.
Boba's literally like, why would anyone go back there? There's nothing left.
Right.
So like, I don't think he. I don't know if they would come with him though, because they're on a different kind of mission.
Well, again,
unless they're saying, if you help me, I'll help you.
Well, and they did. I mean, he did help them get the Darksaber back, which was what their mission was.
Yeah.
Now, Bo, doesn't get it because
circumstances.
Didn't beat up on Moff Gideon, but which that'll be fun to explore in season 3.
Very excited for that.
Here at the end of the year. But I think you could get, because he hasn't left yet, and I feel like they got to leave the planet at some point, unless they're really going to draw this out over multiple seasons. So you could go to Mandalore. You could go to, I don't know. Do you call back?
I mean, he really just wants to be a crime boss now, though, and make money. That's his whole goal. Like, he's starting a family to make money.
True.
So he has no reason to go to.
But he's got to fight the war
first. Yeah, against the Pikes. Yeah.
And so you're gonna. I agree. I think that there's gonna be some Crimson Dawn.
There's got to be a reveal
entrance.
Of a character that we know.
Right.
At some point in the show. That's what I'm thinking.
Right, and because in the timeline, so in the timeline, everyone's still separate, right? So if you're looking at the book of, or not the Book of Boba, but the War of the Bounty Hunters, with the Boba series, where everyone's at, right? Because for a while, Crimson Dawn had the Pikes working for them, and now everyone's kind of separated back off again. So. I'm hoping we get a few more syndicates, like along with Crimson Dawn, like you said, but getting more. You can get the Black Sun back in. Build out that underworld series. You know, if you're going to do it with Bad Batch, because that's, again, kind of the angle they were going. I mean, there was no reason to introduce the Pikes.
I mean, I would, yeah, absolutely. No, and I think what they could do with the show is if they're going to really explore the syndicate families and stuff like that, like, give me a show more like, and please don't end it like it did, but Game of Thrones, where you skip to point of views from other families and you work through them, and you're just watching this big thing come to fruition at some point in one of the later seasons, and give me that, because that'd be really cool to get to know new characters from those syndicates and learn. I don't know if that's the way they're going, probably not, to be honest, but I mean, I can't wait for more, and hopefully we get, hopefully this season's not the only season. So
I have some like weird bit of small hope, like if I'm going to go out on a limb, like, you know, like I did when I predicted Luke to come back in Mando season 2. It would be really fun to have some sort of solo, you know, because again, the last time, you know, Boba was chasing after Han smoked him, you know, he's the reason he ended up in the Sarlacc, right? You've got the War of the Bounty Hunters thing with, you know, the freezing chamber, Crimson Dawn, like all of it would be connected. He would still be running. I mean, he's still running jobs. We know that from, well, the exposition from the sequel trilogies. Like, I don't want him to shoehorn it in just for no reason. Like, I would want it to be, you know, and I don't know if you deep fake it or something like that. I mean, they've done it before.
But like Han Solo just showed up, like,
I don't know about just showing up, but like
with some purpose,
you know, work like if you're gonna expand it into a multiple season thing, but I mean, he's still running jobs for all these people, all Conja Club and and all that stuff, but still, there's going to be a war or a battle of some sort. Bandos. Wow.
Yeah.
Boba. I just combined them. It's like the Brangelina. Boba's going to end up riding in on a Rancor at some point, which is going to be insane.
How intimidating. You look across the field and there's a dude riding a Rancor that's 20 times the size of everything else on the field.
Here's the thing about land-based creatures. Can't you just shoot them?
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
Take them out. So like,
depends on what kind of ships the Pikes have.
Yeah. So I'm really excited for what the last 3 episodes will be. That last scene from episode 4 had a very Game of Thrones feel on the balcony with, the families leaving and, or, the groups leaving and everything like that. And sort of just, the thought of being backstabbed and, he's expecting to be betrayed by them. So he's prepping now for when that inevitably happens.
Yeah. Cause I think he's on the fence. I mean, it's a shaky alliance, obviously. And he's just counting on them just to not join the war on the other side. So, sure. But yeah, I mean, overall, very excited to see the last 3. That's all I got on it. Like, I'm very excited.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it so far. I don't know that it's been exactly what I was expecting, but I don't see that necessarily as a bad thing. So I always like being a little bit surprised in the shows that I watch. So as we come to a close on this episode, we want to thank you all again for listening. We ask if you enjoy the content, please do like and subscribe or follow. Leave a review if you can. I know on Spotify you can leave ratings. So if you listen to us on Spotify, do consider giving us a rating. And you can, if you can share the episode on your social media platforms, we would really appreciate it. And with that, for Jedi John, I'm Obi Sean, and until next time,
may the Force be with you.